Hello beautiful people and welcome to another video. In this one I'll try to restore this buffet that was sat outside in the garden for about a year. It was exposed to the rain, cold, snow, you name it. As you can see, there was a lot of mold, and when I first got it, which was about 3 months ago, I couldn't open any of the drawers or the door. Everything was so badly warped and bowed that I wasn't even sure that I would be able to do anything with it. So basically I left it in my house for over 3 months, and I was hoping that it would just dry and kind of bend back to shape. As you can see, the door is pretty badly bowed, and because there are many different pieces with grains going in all sorts of directions, I knew it was gonna be very difficult. And though I said I was going to restore this, I'm not going to keep this hardware because it's really ugly. I use this mold spray, which I use in my bathroom for the mold, and it's actually really effective. So what I was hoping to do is to basically kill the mold so it wouldn't come back. Despite the mold, this piece didn't actually smell, and I think this is just because it's made of hardwood. So this spray should take care of the problem. As I've mentioned already, there were a lot of problems with bowed and warped wood, but on top of that, whoever put this piece together did a very sloppy job. And there's not a straight angle, and you'll see some of those things. But when they finished this piece, I think they only used 40 or 60 grit sandpaper, so it was absolutely covered with swirl marks, and because this is hardwood, it was super difficult to get rid of all of them. This is just one of many examples of where the wood cracked because of, the movement, expansion, and moisture. So I had to put it all back together. I wish I actually had a picture of when I got it first in the winter and it was all wet and swollen and covered in mold. And I was giving myself about 25% chance that I would be able to do anything with it. That's how bad it was. And as you know me, I take on some pretty crazy projects and I don't shy away from a challenge, but because I couldn't even open this to see what it looked like inside, and I could see how swollen and warped it was, I really didn't have much hope. And this is just one of the examples of when the front of the drawer warped because of the moisture. I had to glue it back to its original shape. So this carved tray is quite interesting and unique, and I think I spent probably 30% of my whole time working on this project trying to get the paint out of all those nooks and crannies. It took absolutely forever. So with a wire brush, mineral spirit and a paint stripper I got most of it off, but in all those crevices it just wasn't gonna work, so I decided to try to sandblast it. I don't use my sandblaster very often just because I don't have a proper setup and it's super messy, but in some cases it's actually very effective, so I wanted to give it a go. So it did work, but not very well, so I decided to go with plan C. And no, I'm not trying to remove this paint with a steamer. I'm mainly using it just to kind of give some moisture back to the side of the panel that I want to bend back to shape, but also make it a bit more receptible, I guess, to the paint stripper that I was about to apply. As you can see, after removing the clamps, the front of the drawer looks as it's supposed to. I'm not going to show you all the repairs that I did because there were just too many, but every single drawer needs repairing, and I'll just show you some of them. Look at the back of this drawer. This is how it was put together. It's nowhere near the right angle, and this one is completely broken, so it needs some major TLC. As far as I can tell, and I'm not an expert, on top of the fact that this sat outside for many months and it was exposed to rain and snow, someone who put this together didn't allow for wood expansion because it's all nailed and glued together, so there's no movement whatsoever as far as the bottom of this drawer. You are smart people, so you've probably gathered by now that the only way to make this perfect was to take it completely apart and put every single piece through a planer and just completely redo it. And this simply wasn't going to happen, so I just did my best. And as you can see, the back of this drawer is at an angle. It's nowhere near a right angle. So I drew a line to make sure that I would put the dowels through both pieces, not on the side of the back. If you're observant, you might have noticed the first dowel, when I was hammering it in, it actually cracked the back panel, so I had to glue it together. And this wood, despite being very hard, it's actually super brittle. So when you put a nail in or a screw, it just cracks. With this project and trying to get the paint off the tree and all the sanding, I definitely needed several cat breaks. Fortunately, I can always count on Hugo and Mia. One of those little wire brushes that you would put in your Dremel tool worked actually surprisingly well for this purpose, so that's what I did. As you remember, I sprayed the bottom of this panel where the tree is with some steam, and I put some weight on the opposite side and I left it outside, hoping that it would bend back to shape. As always, I wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you wonderful and generous people for supporting me and my channel by buying me coffees if you are buying me a coffee, using my Amazon wishlist link, or by hitting the super thanks button. All the cats love you too because they get snacks. Using the kettlebells on the top of this panel didn't quite work, so I used some clamps to give it a bit more encouragement. If you're not new to my channel, you know that I use pretty much anything that works, so that's what I did in this case.
A few moments later.
Have I mentioned there were 40 grit sandpaper swirl marks everywhere?
Many months later. Eventually.
When I was mostly done with sanding, not completely, a friendly neighborhood cat number 2 came to visit. This is Mia, by the way, and she's super cute. There were lots of weird white stains everywhere, and I couldn't really figure out what it was. I tried pretty much everything to get rid of them, but it didn't quite work. Using nylon brush, 120 grit and 180 on surfaces like this was very effective. I also used it to remove some of the paint that was embedded in the grain on other surfaces. There were lots of areas like this when a piece of wood was missing, so I decided to use UV resin with some dye to fill them in. Unlike regular resin or wood filler, using UV resin takes seconds to fix something like this because you literally just put the resin in and shine some UV light on it, and that's it. It hardens in a few seconds. As you can see, it's not perfect, but it's good enough, and I'm quite happy with the result. I use the same process to fill in some other gaps, imperfections, and cracks. And obviously you can use other colors to try and match the color of the wood that you're working with, but that wasn't necessary for my case, and you'll see why later on. It's kind of counterintuitive, but using resin with black dye, like I'm doing it here, looks less fake than actually using something like wood filler. I had to make many other repairs, and in this particular case, I'm just using the wax that's meant for repairs, and it comes in many different colors. You can mix two of them together if you want to. And basically what I'm saying is that there is no one solution for every problem, and I could have done many other things to repair this, basically just showing you that there are many options and you can just use whatever feels best and it's easiest for you. I sanded one side of the door just to make it fit better because again everything was warped, and then I did some sanding and brushing with higher grit. I think this is 180, and the stains that I was trying to remove from the top, they're still there, a bit less visible, but I do have an idea, and it's not the acetone because they didn't work. Do you remember when I said that there was not one straight angle on this buffet? There you go. Do you remember the wax that I used to repair this little crack thingy? You can either try and make it perfect the first time and color match the wax, or you can use markers later on or something else. There are always options. And one of the options is using a lacquer toner. And in this case, I'm using light oak. And hear me out, because this probably sounds a bit odd, but I didn't want to change the color of this whole piece, and I didn't want to make it one color, but I did want to get rid of those white stains. So by using lighter color, I basically covered the stains, but I didn't really change the color of the wood, and it actually worked really, really well. So after testing it on the edge of the door, I used it on the entire piece, but very lightly and just to cover all the imperfections and the white stains and some other things. But what you're seeing now is me spraying satin clear coat, not the lacquer toner. So ideally you would want to cover the piece with a clear coat and then use the lacquer toner and then apply another coat of clear coat. And I'm sure you've noticed by now that the wood grain on this piece looks absolutely fabulous, and I'm very happy with it, but we are not done yet. So as you can see, the lacquer toner isn't really changing the color of the entire piece, makes the color a bit more rich, I think, and definitely covers all the imperfections and the white stains that I was talking about. And for the doors, as always, I use my favorite orange scented beeswax, and as you can see, it makes the wood look absolutely beautiful. I felt like the carved tree on the door was kind of blending in with the rest of the piece, so I wanted to do something to make it pop. Before I show you the final results, as always, if you enjoy content like this and want to see more videos from me, please do subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything and it does help me a lot. And if you feel like I've earned it, you can hit the super thanks button, you can check out my links down below, or you can buy me a coffee. I do appreciate it and thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the final results and see you in the next video.